Why, thank you, thank you. So we've all heard of Jimmer, right? Jimmer. I was probably one of the later at BYU to hear about Jimmer. I don't really care for sports. I don't care for basketball. And, the Jazz were my team, and that's because I grew up in Provo my whole life. But last year, Jimmer mania exploded across the country. And right before the San Diego State game, Jimmer was featured in USA Today, and Jackson Emery had an article in the Washington Post. And I came onto campus, and in the Daily Universe, it was like, Jimmer's big game, and I was getting these emails about how amazing San Diego State was going to be, and I was so confused because I could have cared less. But when I saw these articles, I was like, okay, I'll read and see what the hype is all about. And I read these two articles about Jimmer and Jackson, and basically it was love at first read at that point. And I knew that Jimmer was my hero. And so by this time, I wasn't able to go to that very first game against San Diego State. I had some other things, but that was the last game I missed with Jimmer playing. And so I went, I had a ton of fun, things were going well. One day I was at Costco with a friend, and they were selling replica Jimmer jerseys. And I was like, oh, this is perfect, I have to get one. So, I don't care for sports or sports memorabilia, but I grabbed one, took it to the register, people were shuffling through them all, and then it dawned on me, I have to get this signed by Jimmer. So how do I meet Jimmer? Okay, Jimmer has 29 mutual friends with me on Facebook. But not a single one of them would hook me up, and I was so mad because I tried. So I'm looking for Jimmer. I start going to all the games, okay. I decide I need to carry the jersey and a Sharpie with me at all times in my backpack, in my car, in case I happen to run into Jimmer. I am not going to be unprepared. Then my hair's getting long. It's time to get it cut. Where does Jimmer get his hair cut? I have to figure this out. So I ask Facebook, where does Jimmer get his hair cut? And my friend responds finally, and she's like, my best friend does his hair every week or every month at Supercuts. And I was like, what's her name? And so I go the next day. I'm like, I've heard you cut Jimmer's hair. Can you give me Jimmer's haircut? And so we cut it up, and I swear it was a mirror image. The proudest, best haircut of my entire life, by far. And I still go back every couple of months to get my haircut from her. But he wasn't there that day, and she didn't really have a lot more for me to go on. Okay, so it's getting closer. The season's going on. School's gonna he's gonna graduate soon. So Facebook isn't helping me. I turn to Twitter, and instead of the Hunt for Red October, I create a handle, the Hunt for Blue Jimmer. And I start tweeting, getting followers. People are tweeting me, oh, I just saw Jimmer here. He was at Guru's, or he was at the Wilkinson Center, or whatever. And so people are tweeting me, and I'm trying, and it never works, but I'm getting all these little sightings, Jimmer sightings, coming in. And I think it was on April Fool's Day. One of my really good friends was a chef up at the Sky Room, and sent me a text, and he's like, Jimmer and Coach Rose and a bunch of the players are coming in for lunch. And I didn't think about April Fools, and he didn't either. And so, but I had a meeting the time they were supposed to come in, and I was like, do I go to the meeting? Do I meet Jimmer? How can I decide these things? Before I got to the meeting, he sent me another text saying, sorry, it was our boss's April Fool's joke. He's not coming. Okay, so now we're in April, and things are getting intense because they're getting into the playoffs, and everything's happening. Well, the playoffs just happened, so now they're through. They're back, but I still haven't met Jimmer. And I'm now doing some publicity for a charity, and so I have a ton of flyers to hang out. So I do a little more digging and find Jimmer's apartment complex. So I'm going to go knock on the door and hand them these flyers, even though I'll tape everybody else's. When I get outside, there's 3 large boxes in what I'm pretty sure is Jimmer's front door, but the names on all the boxes say Martha Whipple or something, and I'm like, it's kind of a strange name, his alias. Like, is this really Jimmer? Because they were like sports type boxes, like with supplements and things in them. But no one was home. And I left, again, brokenhearted, with the jersey in my backpack and my Sharpie in my pocket. So we get to the end of the semester. It's the first reading day, and I'm just desperate because he's accepting all these awards across the country. He's hardly in Provo anymore. And I text my one friend, and he's like, have you ever gone to the student-athlete building? I was like, no. Like, why have I not gone there? And so I run down. I'm like, okay, it's early in the morning. It's a reading day, but I can study. They have an open access lab upstairs, so I'm just going to study all day long, wait for Jimmer to come around. I'm sure he'll be there, right? But it was empty. It was dead silent all day. At about 4 o'clock, I go downstairs to Legends Grill and have some dinner. I'm just about to leave, and one of the employees comes in and turns to her coworker who's wiping a table and says, oh, hey, Jimmer's out in the lobby. And, like, I freeze. Okay, I gotta move, and I gotta move fast. And I have my backpack and my jersey and my Sharpie. And I hadn't finished my dinner, and I, like, grab the guy's attention. I'm like, don't take my food, I'll be back. And I, like, dart for the door. As I get out there, he's talking in the lobby to... there's a little receptionist couple that's like an older couple that take people through the museum. And then there's 3 other people in suits and nice clothes. They seem important, but the way they're talking to him makes it seem like they're really unimportant because they're using these big words. They're doing all these things, and like it just seems really fake. So I don't want to go and join this conversation. I don't want to, completely intrude. So I decided to wander around the little museum there. But there's only like 3 display cases, and you can only wander so long. So finally, I'm in the far corner by the front door, and they're all in the middle, and I hear them saying goodbye. So I kind of sneak around, and instead of coming out the front door, which would have been too easy for Jimmer and for me, he turns to go out the back hallway. And as I come around the display case, all 3 of these people have now formed a wall between the desk and the display case, and I can't get through. And so I'm like, excuse me, I have to go. And they like kind of look at me funny, and I push through, and Jimmer's almost to the door, and I say, Jimmer! And I like freeze again, like, what have I just done? I said his name! Like, I can't believe So he turns, I'm like, can you please just autograph this? And he's like, sure, man, okay. And I grab it, I hand him my Sharpie. I'm like, I was gonna have him sign it on the reception table, but now I just have my hand. So he's like signing it on my hand, I'm shaking. He's like trying to just get this over with. And so I'm looking at my hand, and as he finishes, he puts his hand out, and I see it come, so I think he's gonna shake my hand. I go to shake it, and the Sharpie ends up in between us. He was just handing my Sharpie back, because it was my Sharpie. And I was like, oh, okay, well, thanks. I appreciate it. And he walks, and I'm just on cloud 9. Like, choirs of angels are singing. The second coming has come at last. So I go, and before I even get back into the restaurant, I've sent like 20 texts, a dozen tweets, like, everybody, I finally met Jimmer. So I ended up, one of the things, when he finally stopped him and he went to grab my Sharpie to sign it, he looked at me like he'd seen me before. And I was like, oh, yeah, that wasn't me, but it might have been me. But I'm back, so I go home. I've just finished studying. I'm there, and Angry Birds was pretty new at the time too. And I was trying it out. I was really struggling with it. It was a hard game for me. But after that, I beat like the 5 hardest levels I'd ever had right in a row, and I was like, Jimmered, the Angry Birds, the power of Jimmer lives. So thank you.
Craig Foster, everybody.